Today's video is all about late 90s PC gaming goodness, in particular the SuperSocket 7 platform. This has been one of my longer running projects, and I've managed to collect up some really awesome parts. There'll be some troubleshooting along the way, and some repairs, but by the end of the video you'll have a really awesome late 90s retro PC build. The motherboard is a new old stock Gigabyte GA5AX Rev4 SuperSocket 7 mainboard, featuring the Ali or ALI Aladdin chipset. The sound card is a Creative Sound Blaster Live PCI model CT4830. Our 2D graphics card is a Matrox MGA Millennium 2i 2MB PCI. I'm also considering using the ATI Expert 98 8MB, an AGP 2X card, aka the 3D Rage Pro. And then we have the real stars of the show, two Voodoo 2 1000 cards running an SLI. One is a Creative 3D Blaster CT6670 and the other is a ProComp G111 Rev1. The CPU is an AMD K6-2, clocking in at 533 MHz. Believe it or not, this is the first time I've ever bought an AMD CPU. I've always gone for Intel in the past, but considering this is one of the fastest processors on the SuperSocket 7 system, I think we can make an exception this time around. So the last time we seen this Creative 3D Blaster card, it looked a lot different. So I'll post a link to where I got the shrouds. I got them 3D printed. I found them on Thingiverse. I'll put the name of the designer and a link to the files, and you can get them yourself if you're interested. So we've mounted some fans in here. There'll also be details on the on the size of fan that you need to get in the description. But one of the problems I have is that we've got to hook power up for this fan. So I have lots of these lying around. They convert your ATX connector down to a smaller floppy drive size connector. So the idea I had was to cut this end and crimp up a cable. So I'll try and keep that as long as I can. So what might be a good idea here actually is to color code this a little for myself. So I'm going to put the red over that one, and that will designate 5 volts. We have our pin headers on one side. Maybe it's a bit long here, didn't need to be that long, I guess. So I absolutely saturated this thing with the solder mask. That doesn't matter. It'll set eventually. Do it this way. We'll go in like so. Yeah, we've got a good distance there. So that's our motherboard installed with our I/O plate. I have help. Yeah, that's my helper. She's a beast. So last night I was getting some errors whenever I'd have it in the case. It would post and everything, but then suddenly the monitor would just turn off. So it was getting late. I decided to put it away. Took it out. Took the motherboard out today and this evening and decided, right, I'll start it with just the Matrox graphics card. That worked. Plugged in the Sound Blaster Live. That worked. And then I added our Voodoos. You may notice that the Shroud is missing from one of them. Yeah, it doesn't really fit in there with both Shrouds. I'd need a longer version of these cables. This is unique because it's got that twist in it. It's basically the same type of cable as a floppy disk connector. So it's back in its case and running. Yeah, it's looking pretty snazzy. And if I go over here, so it's quite loud. We have a fan in the back, fan in the front, air in, air out, and there's also a fan on the Shroud, which is running using my custom connector. Yeah, it's running great. So cable management, yeah, it's okay. At least there's a clear path for the air to get across. So yeah, gonna close it up and let's test out some games. And I assume it was a driver issue with the first install of the Voodoos. I had installed the creative driver to get the first Voodoo card working, and then once I installed the second for SLI, I then went with the fast Voodoo drivers, the 4.6 versions. And I imagine somewhere with that messing in the drivers was the cause of my trouble. But after a fresh install of Windows 98, I swapped out the Matrox MGA Millennium 2 graphics card for the S3 Savage 4 Pro. And you know what, Windows 98 installs are pretty fast when you're using an SSD. Probably one of the kind of, definitely if you can use an SSD, they're pretty affordable these days, I would. Yeah, we have 365 megabytes of RAM, pretty good for this system. I could have gone higher, but I don't really see the need for any more RAM than that on a Super Socket 7 system. The fast Voodoo drivers, for 4.6 drivers, are really good. So I have two different brand cards here, two different brands of Voodoo. And without those drivers you wouldn't be able to run them in SLI. They both have to be from the same vendor. But yeah, it's an awesome system. So unfortunately I'm still stuck using my cheap SCART to HDMI converter. So I've hooked up one of these to the VGA port. I'm going to hook that up by HDMI cable to the capture device, and we'll capture some games.
Oh man. Who are you? Oh, you must be the new guy, Leon. Sorry, but it looks like your party has been canceled. Oh man. Who are you? Oh, you must be the new guy, Leon. Sorry, but it looks like your party has been canceled.
Okay, so I installed Clive Barker's Undying from around 2001, this game. So a bit later, kind of a tall order. But what we'll do is we'll try and run it on both the Voodoo 2s in SLI and on the S3 Savage 4 Pro and see what the difference is. Well, it immediately looks a lot better than when it did when I tried to run it with so you can see 3D effects 800 by 600 16-bit. So yeah, I tried to run this before and it just did not want to display correctly. I was getting all kinds of corruption in the graphics. So let's do this. Let's see how it runs. Be chicken. Go on medium. Because I just want to see it. Graphic.
I'm tired of traveling, or fighting superstition and its many manifestations.
Yeah, it's a bit of a slideshow here, isn't it?
Covenant led our unit on the hunt for their cap.
So we'll try and skip this. Yeah, kind of, you can see where it's a vertex thing, because if I look in an area where there's no vertex, I gain a few frames. I'll turn around towards the centerpiece asset and boom, get a massive drop in frames. So yeah, it runs on the Voodoo 2, but it's a slideshow. So okay, here we are in the menu. Looks maybe a little bit cleaner, it's hard to tell. We'll go into the video. So we're in Direct 3D, 800 by 600 and 16-bit color. We'll stick with 800 by 600. Let's see if the intro is still a slideshow.
I hadn't given any of this much thought until I came back here to find this letter that Jeremiah wrote me almost 6 months ago, asking me to come back to Ireland and help him out. This is not something I'm dying to do, for it may mean the death of me. He saved my life though, so I owe it to him. Just hope it's not too late.
So there's something with this system and the S3 cards. So back here I've disconnected the pass-through and I just have the DIN going to, or the VGA cable going to the S3. So let's fire up the machine and I'll show you what happens. Yeah, garbage. Lots of garbage. So this only started happening once I put strain on the S3. I'm going to turn it off from the plug. I don't want this stressing the card. So just to prove it's the S3 card, I've put the Matrox MGA Millennium card in there and we're going to fire that up. So yeah. So I'm going to try another AGP card just to make sure it's not the AGP bus. But this is an ATI 3D Rage Pro AGP 2X. I'll just see if I can... Okay, so yeah, we're back here, ATI 3D Rage Pro. I'm going to turn the machine off again. I'm not too worried, SSD. Okay, S3 Savage 4 Pro in again. Again, sorry about the light here. It's kind of one of these quick. Okay. Could it have been just a dirty AGP slot? Whatever it is with this card, it's intermittent. Ooh. Oh, no. That's not good. Okay. Okay. Okay, poor graphics adapter. I'm not gonna kill you. Yeah, alright. So it's pretty much ridiculous a clock right now. But if we look at the S3 Savage 4 Pro, you can see here the manufacturer's kind of branding. Sparkle. Now I've had cards from Sparkle in the past. GeForce cards, like the early 5000, 6000 series, kind of bargain cards when I was still buying cheap cards. And I know from experience that the capacitors are often, you know, really bad brands of capacitors. So just looking around, all the SMD type are, I think they're 10 microfarad 16 volt, and I have those in surface mount in stock. I also, that's like a 220 microfarad, I probably have that somewhere, definitely, yeah, it's through hole, I have it. But something else I noticed, if I try and get some good light on this, there appears to be some kind of debris on U11 there on the pin. I'll try and zoom in. It's going to go out of focus, I'd imagine. Yeah, that's as good as I'm going to get at it. So, I don't know what that is, but when I do the capacitors tomorrow, I'll check when I have some magnification. What is that on the memory module on the leg? Clean it off anyways and take it from there, but it looks like it might be shortening that pin to the pin beside it, and that would explain our troubles. But yeah, the S3, not a very, you know, collector's card or very collectible card, but it is quite unique, and I'm a big fan of it, especially since it's kind of linked to Resident Evil 2 and how you get extra kind of effects and things in Resident Evil 2 with it. So I'm going to do what I can to save this card. So tomorrow we'll get the hot air out, replace the SMD caps. I'll take out the mask ROM and the heat shield. I'll take that off. We'll tape it off, put foil where we need to put tin foil to protect any of the kind of plasticky bits. We'll use a lot of tape because there's a lot of surface mount here, and I'll just go around, inspect it, as well as recap it. So here we are with the Sparkle S3 Savage 4 Pro. I'll zoom in a little. So as you can see here, it looks like the guy who set up the pick and place machine this day in the factory was having a bad day. If we look at the kind of alignment of some of the components, they're a little off. But again, I know Sparkle, I've had cards from them previously. This capacitor down here, this surface mount looks at a funny angle. You know, this high density area of components seems to be at a funny angle. I have a lot of these 10 microfarad 16 volt capacitors because I was using them for a Sega Mega CD repair, and I ended up using through hole because the pads were that bad, just in case someone came along in the future. I'm also noticing some greenish kind of that could be just stray solder mask. Let's have a little scrape. Yeah, I don't know what that is. It looks like corrosion. It looks like some kind of corrosion. So what I'll probably do is take this chip out. Because it's such a densely packed board and such a small, there's a lot of surface mount around here, so I'd have to be very careful with hot air in this area. So I think I'm just going to kind of heat up one side, grab it with the pliers, and just kind of, move it. Lift one leg, lift the other leg. So that's interesting. We've got the through hole, but they've also left a footprint for an SMD package for the BIOS. So as I pointed out last night, one of the pins, and sorry I couldn't get a better shot of it, but one of the pins here, this guy right here, had some crud connecting it to the next pin over. But yeah, I got some IPA, some isopropyl alcohol, and cleaned it. And it still looks kind of dull, so I might get some flux on there and run the iron over it a few times. And see if I can get it nice and shiny again. I'll do the same for any of the memory chips that seem to be a little off. So I immediately got that kind of fishy smell when I lifted the first leg of this capacitor. So that means there was electrolyte leaking from this board. So there's a high chance that could be our problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly mask up as much of this as I can. Being sure to cover the plastic bits with a bit of tin foil, and we're going to get the hot air out and take all these off because it's just going to take way too long doing them one by one. Our S3 Savage 4 Pro card looks like a bit of a satellite at the moment with all the Captain tape and tin foil. None of the components under the tape have decided to go walkabout either, which is nice. So what I'm going to do now is just add solder to all the existing pads, and we'll wick it off. So guys, that's our capacitors in. Before I replace or put back the BIOS, I want to get some IPA on here and a toothbrush and some cotton buds and just clean it all up. There we go. There we go. Nicely in. And I'll just mop up some of the leftover contact cleaner. We're going to give it a liberal spray of contact cleaner. So we're in there fairly firm and secure. So I'm not going to put the side back on, but I'll get it down off here and we'll plug it into a monitor just to hook it up with the basics. So the moment of truth, have we fixed the S3 card? S3's coming up. No graphical corruptions so far. We'll let it boot all the way to Windows. Skip the scan. So far so good. I'll have to do like a kind of a burn-in test to make sure, but this looks promising. Yeah, I think we're good. Okay, so I've got Resident Evil 2 in there. Let's stress test this card a little. So I'm just going to launch Resident Evil 2. I'm not going to play it because, as you guys know, it does like a demo loop. So it's set to Savage. So I'm going to hit options, 16-bit color, 640 by 480 full screen. Okay, and I'm just going to hit play. Now I don't have any speakers plugged in. I'm not worried about audio here at all. Colors look okay. No artifacting. Oakley dokley. So I'm just going to skip past this. So that screen looks great, to be honest with you. So what I'll do is I'm going to leave it run for maybe 20 minutes or so, and we'll see if any artifacting appears during the demo play. Here's another demo. Everything appears to be pretty good. You can see how the blood effects are way brighter with the S3 card. So I have the pass-through cable for the Voodoo 2s back going. So if I go to System Info, Detected, that's good. That's all fairly good. So what I'm going to do is Unreal. So again, like Resident Evil 2 there, I'm just going to leave Unreal running for 10 or 20 minutes just to see what happens. This is in glide mode, so we'll see. I'll leave it running through the demo here and we'll come back, but I think we fixed things. So it's a noisy machine, there's no doubt about it, but I'd rather have those case fans there getting air across those graphics cards, or rather the graphics cards and the Voodoo cards. So, strange video, turned into a repair of the S3 Savage 4 Pro, but such is life with these old projects, I guess, with this old hardware. Yeah, so what I think happened was, when we installed Clive Barker's Undying, a game that came out in 2001, a tall order for this machine. I think back in the day I was running on a NVIDIA TNT2. But yeah, so a tall order for this machine. And when we ran that game, we basically put a lot of stress on the S3 Savage 4 Pro. And probably capacitors that were on the border of giving up, decided to give it up. The thing with that is, I noticed straight away when I took off, like, was it C61? Could be wrong, I think it was C61, capacitor 61, that I instantly got that fishy smell. Which can mean only one thing: leaky capacitors. Them popping off the board, I mean, that's kind of just the nature of the type of capacitors they are. They just, you know, the heat, they swell and pop. I don't think that had anything to do or kind of necessarily points towards their age. But as I said before, I've had Sparkle graphics cards in the past, so I know that they have bad capacitors. I've had that experience before, so we managed to fix it. It could have also been that little kind of bit of corrosion on one of the memory chips that I reflowed, but I think the strain of we put on the graphics card just, you know, those capacitors were probably coming to end of life and we just pushed it over the line. So you could probably make this machine a lot quieter if you use like Noctua fans. It may not need both fans, but it's nice to have them in there. It's going to live over there underneath my modern day rig. Yeah, it's awesome. Again, a shame we couldn't have both kind of shrouds on the graphics cards, to have both fans running, just to kind of try and defeat entropy when it comes to those Voodoo 2s. What I may do is I may cut a hole in the side of this case. It's strange, it doesn't really kind of suit it. If I'm going to put a window in there, it's going to kind of maybe look a bit strange. But I'll have a think about it. I may or may not put a window there. But yeah, this is my new favorite computer. So I did some captures before we had the problems with the graphics card. So what I'll do is I'll hook it up again and I'll capture some more games.
3, 2, 1, go! Don't you screaming! Stop them! Don't you screaming! I'll say screaming!
We're meeting G over there.
What?
Please be safe, G. How could anyone do this? G! James, I tried.
Get away from the shutting down. No. Attempted shutting down. It's not shutting down. It's Get away from the shutting down. No. Attempting shutdown. It's not. It's not shutting down. It's not.
I hope you agree we've got a rather unique system here, considering we're using the S3 Savage 4 Pro. The setup itself offers wide compatibility with a lot of games both in DOS and Windows that we should be able to play. It's capable of Direct 3D with the S3 Savage 4 Pro, and of course Glide. So in the future I hope to make up an SLI bridge cable using an old floppy cable. That way I can put the Shroud back on the second card and have both fans running. But that'll be something for a future video. This video has gone on long enough. But thanks for tuning in, and I'll chat to you all again.